Hey everybody, and welcome to the Plant Stock channel. You're here with me and Mayur, talking about the latest news from the Very Good Food Company. And also, disclosure, this, what we're talking about, just two friends talking about stocks that we find interesting in different ways, shouldn't be considered financial advice. All right, so how you doing today?
Hey, pretty good. How are you?
Yeah? Yeah, I'm doing good here. And some interesting news then from the Very Good Food Company, guys. I thought we'll just show you quickly here. And basically, I'm sure many of you have already heard it. The Very Good Food Company's CEO has been terminated effective immediately. And also, they announced that James Davison has resigned as Chief and Research Development Officer and from the board effectively now on Friday. So yeah, I guess we shouldn't be surprised, but it's funny that it happened now and it's taken this long, I guess, to some extent. And to be honest, I don't know what you feel, Mayor, but do you at all feel guilty considering what we talked about now on Friday? It's a suspicious coincidence, isn't it? That we talked about this on Friday, and then the first day of trading, this is what happens. You think we gave them some ideas?
Yeah, I would like to think that, but let's, it's probably it was probably in the works for some time.
Yeah.
Remember, like I said on our call last week that, I'm not touching this company with a 10-foot pole. It doesn't check off any of the boxes that I look for when making an investment. I would definitely support the company as a customer, but not as an investor. After just taking an initial look at the company's annual report that they filed last week,
Yeah.
I saw a lot of good things about them, just starting from scratch, not having any other background before that annual report was published. Found some really good things that I like about the company, but found extremely discouraging behavior coming from management.
Mm.
Especially concerning this loan situation that was completely bizarre.
Yeah, I
No
think
one has
also
any idea why that happened.
we should probably explain also because it could be. I know some subscribers commented on that they thought what we talked about was great, but maybe there was a misunderstanding, and I wasn't sure that that was what you meant when you talked about that Very borrowed the money from the CEO, but it was actually the other way around. It was the CEO who borrowed money on the company.
Was it the CEO that borrowed money, or was it that him lending money to the company?
No,
I
it
thought
was
it was the other way.
yeah. Was they used the money, the CEO and the he's the co-founder who also resigned now to I think to fund a house to buy a house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was why that situation was so sensitive, also, especially.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
but
either way, the case it's still either way, it's very it's extremely unprofessional, and it just screams just very, very fishy behavior.
yeah, definitely.
And this happens for small caps, right? Because there's not a lot of scrutiny coming in from investors, because most investors are small dollar or just retail investors that don't really understand how businesses are run,
Yeah,
right? So either way, whether the CEO lent money or that they borrowed money, that might even make it worse.
yeah, it
But
does.
you know, I just especially during a time when this is not a company that has excess cash, by the way. It makes sense to loan money to people or to entities or to do other things if you have excess cash
Yeah,
that you don't have anything to do with. But this is a cash burning company,
yeah,
and they're at the brink of bankruptcy, right? Unless if they raise an additional cash. So they're not in a position to be making loans like that to other people.
no,
And it's not just other people; it's their own CEO,
yeah.
right?
But I keep
Um,
wondering. I mean, even though he was the CEO, him, getting that money must have been approved by the board, right?
right,
Yeah,
exactly.
which is the
It
weird
has
thing.
to have been approved by the board.
Yeah, and
Um,
that was a bit.
or at least the board was aware that it was happening. At the
Yeah,
very least, that's what should be happening.
yeah,
Um, so either way, it's just I think there's very fishy behavior by the CEO, but then there's also negligence by the board.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's actually moving in a good. There's the right step taken, which was to part ways with the CEO
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
The stock is down 10% right now on this news, but I think it's actually good news. Now the question is who do they replace him with?
Yeah, they're looking like it says here on the news here that in lieu of immediately filing the role of chief executive officer, very good, has temporarily created an executive committee consisting of senior executives from within the company, right?
Hmm.
So they're gonna take their time to find a more appropriate CEO. And what I'm
Yeah.
wondering about is that we talked about this before here, that we have Anna Silva, who used to be who's the president of the company right now, right, of the
Hmm.
board, and she used to be the CFO for 5 years for Dia Foods, right, which was a huge vegan company back in the day, right, and they did
Yeah.
really well. They had like they sold their products at like 27,000 stores in North America, but also we actually have them in some stores in Sweden, Dia Foods.
Hmm.
So that's how big they are. And then we have Bill Tolany, that's an independent director who has worked in different leadership roles within Amazon and Whole Foods Market. So these feels like people that are extremely much more experienced, anyways.
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know if that's something you could do, that they could actually become, depending on what the board would vote. Could one of them become the CFO? Oh, sorry, CEO.
The CEO, yeah, it could be one of them. I would like them to bring in somebody like for me to start to get interested in being an investor in this company. I would like for them to bring in someone that has retail, experience,
Yeah,
someone that was involved with, brick and mortar retail, because this is how I think they are going to differentiate themselves from every other plant-based food company.
yeah,
Having actual brick and mortar, what they call butcheries, right?
yeah,
Butcheries, which is kind of cool, a plant-based butchery.
yeah,
So this is how they differentiate themselves, and they can, kind of take things into their own hands. We see, like, Beyond Meat struggling to get into McDonald's and such like that, right? Whereas if they enter the restaurant space, I think there is an opportunity for a company that makes really good food. As long as their food is good and their branding is good, there is an opportunity, I think, for a vegan restaurant chain
yeah.
to occur. And I think VGFC is the closest one to achieving that type of outcome.
Yeah, I think there
Having
are some. There is like a few smaller vegan food chains in the U.S. I think what I've looked up, and it's actually one that has about 30 or 40 locations where actually VGFC were allowed to sell their products in their freezer box. That
Okay.
people going into these restaurants, and if they want to buy home some food, they had those in their freezer. Obviously that's not a big thing, but for a small company like this, getting their brand name out there is always positive, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
so but
Yeah, so I think there's I think there's opportunity here. That's why I have been interested in just following what they're doing.
yeah,
But I would love for them to bring in a veteran that oversaw the expansion of, Burger King or McDonald's or Starbucks, or even a smaller retail chain like a 7-Eleven.
yeah.
Um, well, not that's not very small, right? They're huge here in the US, 7-Eleven.
Yeah,
So like anyone that has experience with launching and expanding, retail food service locations,
yeah,
that would be my top choice, because they have executives on the team, at least on the board,
yeah,
that has experience within the plant-based foods industry, like Silva,
yeah,
right? So she's pretty good at that, right? And so if they can bring in a veteran that knows how to grow brick and mortar retail locations,
yeah,
that would start to get interesting
yeah.
to me.
And I keep thinking, like, if there's one thing that the CEO Mitchell Scott actually did, I'm not sure he was the only one picking them and looking for them, but it was to choose people like Anna Silva and Bill Tolany, people who have like years and years of experience.
Hmm.
And it's that kind of tells us at the very least that these people with that kind of experience are interested in moving into working for a plant-based industry, right? And are open for such a small company. And so hopefully, depending on, obviously on the reputation, someone they could maybe lure in a CEO who've had huge experience and who would want to go in here, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, for instance, the former Mars CEO, he had like a 10% role in there is, I'm not sure what's going on with that company right now, but there is a portfolio company that's called, man, I've forgotten what they're called. It was such a long time that I looked at them. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look it up, but a portfolio company that had several different vegan and plant-based companies, and I'm just gonna have to look it up. And he started working for them 10% with that kind of huge experience, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm thinking if they could find other people like that who might not have that much to do, but let's see. Eat V. No, that's not. Sorry, that wasn't it either. I put it down so far now.
Mhm.
Dun, dun, dun. All right. So eat beyond and global. Let's see here. I've done several videos on them too, but it's such a long time since I talked about them. But here, Eat and Beyond Global Holdings, Eats. So they actually flew up to, I think about like a year ago. I think they were up to, not longer. Let's see, they've been up to like $3.4, and they are down to 0.4. Because there was a lot of hype there too, and they bought in early when it comes to Very, and they're in I think Just, and not sure if they're actually been talking about going into Impossible as well. So, but yeah, the former CEO of Mars is actually working for them to some extent.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. And it's just like when Beyond Meat hired Doug Ramsey. This guy came from Tyson, right, which is the largest chicken manufacturer in the U.S.
exactly,
And he's not just anyone from Tyson, but he spent like 30 years at Tyson,
yeah,
and he headed up the poultry and its McDonald's relationship. So that was a key hire
yeah,
that Beyond Meat did, right, to make
yeah,
him the COO of Beyond Meat. So that's the type of industry leadership that I'd love to see VGFC bring on. They're gonna have to pay, like they're gonna have to open the checkbook. That's why I think they will have to do an equity raise if they want, to really, succeed. This is an all or nothing thing.
yeah.
They can't go small if they want to actually make this work. Find somebody within food service that has experience in rapid growth
Yeah.
of the number of stores.
I'm putting
Because
you.
remember, these restaurants serve as advertising too.
True.
They generate revenue, and it serves as a form of advertising where people can actually see your restaurant
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Um,
But I'm putting
yeah.
you a little on the spot here. I don't know, but with your experience, have you ever heard of a company that's fired their CEO and then found a new one, and the company did really well after?
Not under the new leadership, but that's because this current one, that's because the current one is, extremely. I can't. I'm going to stop short of using the word fraud, but his actions are not professional. I don't believe that his actions have been professional.
All right.
So if they can bring on someone stronger and better, qualified to, lead this company and
Yeah,
grow it,
yeah,
that would be a great sign.
yeah. So
By the way, Elon Musk was not the first CEO of Tesla.
true, true.
Um,
Yeah, he wasn't even the
he's only
founder.
listed as a co-founder,
Yeah,
but that's because he was one of the largest and big and first investors back when Tesla was basically nothing.
yeah,
Um, so he came on and he really, jump charged, started the company.
exactly.
So that would be awesome if they could do that, if they
Yeah,
could find someone like that.
yeah,
That was my first requirement, right? To
mm,
to become an investor in this company. I want current leadership gone. I want new leadership in that has industry experience
yeah,
in the restaurant business.
exactly.
At the very least, in the food service area.
Yeah,
But I'm super excited about the restaurant side of things because
yeah,
that can help really expand. And we don't have many like that right now.
No, but like you
So,
said,
and then I want to see the cash burn start to slow. If we can see those, if we can get those two things, strong management in and slowing cash burn and continued growth, that's the trifecta for me to get really excited about a company like this.
yeah, and we have a conference call. It was supposed to be tomorrow, but considering what's going on, they moved it up one day. I'm surprised it was only one day until Wednesday, where the management team and this new committee is going to talk about the financials and their future plans now and how to reach profitability, and also they're going to downsize the company quite a lot. So it's going to really be interesting to hear their plans for that. So I'm looking forward to it. I just want to end with saying also that to some extent, I mean, this is really the best thing they could do, like we talked about. And whatever Mitchell would have been able to do otherwise, maybe if he could have turned it around to some extent, the taint that he put on himself, well, I think it would, or the stain, right, would have been so hard to just, wipe away for years to come. And that would be reflected on the company and the brand as well, I think. So it is definitely the right thing to do here. But to some extent, I keep thinking about Shakespeare, the parting such a sweet sorrow, because to some extent, I've been part of this journey for 2 years since they IPO'd, basically. And, I've always had my reservations regarding him because he's felt quite young and inexperienced to some extent, but goofy and interesting, and had a lot of wild ideas that actually got a lot of us to feel like, whoa, this guy seems to know what he's talking about. But obviously it wasn't good. So, but it's bittersweet to some extent, that even though this is definitely the right move, it feels a little weird. And I keep thinking that, he's still a person, right? So like what's going to happen with him and his family right now. But obviously, as an investor, and I know a lot of investors out there who has way more money in this than me, they probably don't share that sentiment, because they feel that they've lost a lot of money here. A lot of people have actually gone out of it and actually then lost money because they did sell. So understandably so. So I can understand that this is not bittersweet for them. This is joy. Yeah. We'll see.
Yep. That's
All
why
right.
I just always recommend people to, pay attention to valuation. Multiples matter.
Yeah.
And so if you disregard that, there's very, very high risk for unproven businesses, especially ones as small as this one, operating in a highly competitive marketplace. There's, the chances of success are very slim. So you need to be compensated for that as an investor, right? Not to say don't take risks, but take calculated risks, understanding that valuation is a major component of your returns in the long run. If you're a long-term investor, if you're a short-term trader, none of that matters. You're in and out for a quick dollar, right? Long-term investors, you have to pay attention to valuation in addition to the fundamentals.
Right. Perfect. Thanks for that. And guys, if you want to get in contact with Mayur, who talks a lot about these items and who's a huge Tesla bull, Square, T-Dog, Beyond Meat, Oatly, and some other things, join him on Twitter. Look him up there. And also join our free Discord channel, where he's quite active as well, talking about these different companies, guys. All right, guys. Thank you for today. I hope to see you soon. And thank you, man. Peace out.